Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Satellite imagery today showing big area of high pressure, or there is a big area of high pressure, and what's showing is the clouds and an upper disturbance that dropped southward and then took off eastward here and pushing the band of higher clouds out to the east. This narrow band through here kind of stuck in the area today. Possibly a few flurries or light snow showers in that band, but whatever fell, not very significant at all. Otherwise, clear skies in the north, clearing to the south, and then this area of moisture coming northwestward right through here, and sort of lifting northward, coming in across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula up into the Susitna Valley. And this band right through here may have had some light precipitation, rain or snow showers with it back down toward Kodiak, and another band right through here along the Alaska Peninsula. That's mostly up away from the Pribilofs now, kind of right on the back edge there. Same thing for Unalaska, definitely Nikolsky on out to Adak and even Shemya. Looking pretty good today, although kind of a warm front right through here, very weak, probably spread some light rain up into the far western Aleutians. And otherwise, not much change here. This band pretty stationary. It looks like it's going to stay that way for another 12 to 24 hours. Meanwhile, over the southeast coast, had a disturbance there, kind of exiting the area. This, though, coming down from the north, but really not going to make too much more progress there. Accidentally bounced past the today chart. So for tonight, that trough now off the coast, and that should keep most of the shower activity off to the west there. And even this area is just going to be scattered at most with clouds over the southern southeast coast, variable clouds up to the north, just a risk of a shower mainly down over Dixon Entrance and the Queen Charlottes, and then some leftover moisture here, mostly on the north side of the eastern Alaska Range and over towards into the Yukon. But to the north, a little breezy here through the interior, as it was today, with gusty winds through the interior out of the east and northeast as high as 35 to 40 miles an hour in gusts, places like Indian Mountain and the higher elevations there. And then it kind of dropped over the Brooks Range. Eastern Arctic coast today, still seeing gusts up to 40 miles an hour in some locations. Windiest on the east side. That's going to begin to slowly diminish later tonight. Could still see some passing low clouds, maybe a few flurries off to the west there. Otherwise clear for the most part with variable clouds in the interior. And maybe, again, some light snow showers right along the Alaska Range, but the Kuskokwim Valley back to the northwest looking pretty good. Again, breezy here through the central interior tonight. No wind, though, south of the mountains. Little gradient, if at all, there for Cook Inlet and the North Gulf Coast. Prince William Sound, wind staying quite light. Dry conditions, variable clouds, Kodiak Island. And this area moisture just dashing it in as a trough now. Maybe mixture of precipitation. It looks like that's going to lie mostly east of the Pribilofs and then right up toward the southwest coast. Some of that might work into mostly the Kilbrook, Auckland Mountain areas there, maybe Kuskokwim Bay, probably not affecting Bethel. And then periods of light rain, light winds to go along with it. Patchy fog here for the western Alaska Peninsula. And Unalaska, they're still in a threat, but high pressure, light winds, partial clearing over the central Aleutians for Adak and Atka, and then a stronger system moving into the far western Aleutians tonight, bringing those winds up toward gale force, mostly west of Kiska Island, with periods of rain to go along with that. Otherwise, high pressure sliding southeastward here into the Yukon, and again, that's keeping that gradient tight enough here to keep it windy over the interior, mostly south of the Brooks Range or up along the Arctic coast, associated with that high center a little farther to the north. And that'll continue, but gradually weaken. You can see already the weakening or the gradient getting less here, less lines on the chart. And that's going to drop the winds off on the eastern coast tomorrow, definitely on the west side, but holding on to small craft advisories through tomorrow for the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, and then less than that here to the west with mostly clear skies, Seward Peninsula, much of the interior, and again some variable clouds, maybe some flurries north side of the far eastern Alaska range area, but not too significant at all. Otherwise, pretty dry for the North Gulf Coast, some sunshine, variable clouds, south central Alaska, still picking up possibilities of some isolated rain or snow showers here over the southwest interior. But basically, Bristol Bay will be dry, and then this moisture mostly along the south side of the Aleutian Range and the Alaska Peninsula here, and then along the main boundary that's still stuck here over the eastern Bering Sea, and just maybe just skiffing the southwest coast here a little bit, Tooksuk Bay, maybe Nunivak Island, and also near or south of St. Lawrence Island with light winds all through this area, especially with that narrow ridge out here to the west. Light wind conditions, mostly cloudy skies. Could see some sunshine, Nikolsky and on Alaska tomorrow, but basically looking mostly cloudy or variably cloudy here for the southeast coast. Just a risk of some isolated showers, and that's about it if they occur at all. Less clouds up to the north, mostly sunny for Yakutat and those areas. And system held out to the west here by developing high pressure over the Bering Sea. It looks like for Tuesday, this is actually going to, for Monday night, slide off to the southeast as high pressure begins to link up with the one here to the north. And so Tuesday is shaping up to look like this at one center. This actually slides off to the southeast. High pressure builds in to the northern Bering right along the Russian coast, ridging southward in toward the central Aleutians, keeping winds relatively light, maybe partly to mostly sunny conditions. That area of moisture kind of stuck right here, continues to weaken and dissipate. Only good now for some scattered rain and snow showers to the Alaska Peninsula, mostly about Nelson Lagoon on over toward Falls Pass, and just a slight chance there for Unalaska and Dutch Harbor with that area again extending northward to possibly affecting St. Lawrence Island, but really not much left of this feature at all, just clouds and just an isolated chance of some moisture, which means Perloffs will probably be dry. And then up here to the north, winds continue to diminish. Coming down now, marine forecast just 10 knots up there along the Arctic coast. So the winds becoming a little more northerly here. Disturbance dropping southward, mostly going to go into the Mackenzie River Delta area and eastward on Tuesday night into Wednesday. But Tuesday shaping up mostly sunny across the interior from the north slope all the way down the Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island. Maybe some clouds on the east side, but generally dry, or will be dry, from Bristol Bay along the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle. A little bit more significant trough now swinging up from the southeast here, coming up. So early on Tuesday, look for the rain chances to increase or showers with this feature, and a lot more moisture off to the southeast there. It'll be following it on up. Otherwise, staying nice up here over the northern areas. Look for the clouds to increase in the afternoon. And for the temperatures today, across the Panhandle, mostly in the 40s to mid 50s there. 53, one of the warmer locations at Ketchikan, 50 degrees up at Skagway, 46 recorded there at Yakutat, same temperature at Cordova. Lower mid 40s here over south central Alaska, 45 at Nome, 41 Kodiak, and up to 45 in Talkeetna. Somewhat cooler than they were yesterday, and 51 over at Gulkana. Just 30s up in the Tanana Valley, the chilly air coming southward there. Fairbanks at 35, 38 Delta, just 33 degrees this afternoon at 4 p.m. over at Tanana. And Eagle, 29, 28 below freezing over there at Fort Yukon. Battlezo did push up to 34, back down to 25 at Anatuvik. And teens along the Arctic coast, again, those pretty gusty winds, 25 to as high as 40, 45 miles an hour in gusts there on the east side. Less of that to the west. Temperatures warming into the lower to mid 30s up over the northwest coast, Seward Peninsula, and southwest interior. Got lower 40s here. McGrath and Nikolai into the mid 40s, then dropping back to the mid to upper 30s out along the coastline. Unalakleet 43 degrees, 34 at Savunga. Pribilofs near 40 or 242 there at St. Paul. Otherwise, Unalaska 38, mid 40s here in the central Aleutians. And for the Alaska Peninsula, temperatures topping 40 a little bit there with 41 at Sand Point. Otherwise, that's Cold Bay with 40 degrees. King Salmon up to 47, Dillingham 42. And the lows for tonight, upper 20s to lower 30s here over just about all of the southwest interior, with mid-20s up there to Nome. And right around 30 for the Pribilof, St. Lawrence Island, mid-30s above freezing here for the Aleutians to the Alaska Peninsula, and generally 30 to 40 across the southeast coast. And the 0 degree isotherm here you can see running from south of Eagle northwestward there to just about out to the Arctic coast. So 5 above to maybe 5 to 6 below zero here up across the North Slope, Arctic coast, upper Yukon Valley areas, with teens in the Tanana Valley. Highs for tomorrow coming back up to near 40 there in the greater Fairbanks area, otherwise staying below freezing across the Yukon Flats. And from Eagle up to the Brooks Range, and teens again for the Arctic coast and North Slope. Mid to upper 20s here for the Northwest coast. Temperatures 40 to 45, some cases into the lower 50s here, maybe even mid 50s for king salmon. Same thing down over the southern panhandle, and really everybody forecast into the 50s tomorrow for the southeast coast. Looking at flying weather for tomorrow morning, pretty good VFR over just about all the interior, including the Arctic coast, with marginal VFR here along the east side of Kodiak Island, and mostly along or off the coast, in fact mostly off the coast for the North Gulf Coast, and not quite making it to the southeast coast. Areas of marginal VFR, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and then the IFR right through here, but not reaching St. Lawrence Island. Maybe some marginal stuff up into Togiak Bay in the mountains, breaking out to the west. And then for tomorrow afternoon, doesn't move a whole lot here. We've got that IFR band right across the Pribilofs, mostly to the east though, back to the northwest, and then that next front bringing some more IFR in out to the west, but nothing too widespread. Pretty good through the central eastern Aleutians. This IFR staying to the south, and looks like VFR, North Gulf Coast, Panhandle, through the interior, up into the Arctic. So passes all VFR for the Brooks Range, Anatuvik, Adigan. Seedlings visibilities unlimited, Lake Clark, Merrill, and rainy tomorrow with windy VFR. Same forecast for Isabel and Mentasta. For Tanita, VFR. Same forecast for Portage, Chilkoot, and White, VFR. And for the freezing levels, again that 2,000 to 4,000 feet, warmest over the southern southeast coast. Southeasterly flow here a little bit, and at the surface for the North Gulf Coast. And then southeast flow here, pulling the surface up towards St. Lawrence Island, 2,000 feet in across Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Colder air, northwesterlies coming southward here, pushes the 2,000 foot freezing level well to the south, and then milder air with that next incoming storm out over the far west. And for icing, not a whole lot here, just some leftover stuff. Possibilities in the shaded areas be the only place you'll see it tomorrow anywhere in the state. Alaska Peninsula, southwest coast, east of the Pribilof, St. Lawrence Island, and coming into the far western Aleutians. Otherwise icing free everywhere else. So taking a look at the jet stream, showing a big upper level high here north of the Arctic coast. So flow coming south and then easterly, holding that same patterns we saw today, but taking off to the east-northeast. So pretty light wind flow at this elevation through the central and southern interior. The main jet well to the south here. High pressure aloft developing near Kodiak, and some ridging out here over the Aleutians at about 70 knots. And that's going to develop further and keep that next system out to the west or shunt it off to the southeast. And for turbulence, occasional light to isolated moderate chop here. Wainwright eastward in toward Mackenzie River Delta or Mackenzie Bay there, and the north slope of those gusty east winds, with that improving throughout the day. Maybe some more moderate chop type stuff on the east side early, but then that's going to improve, and also through the interior again for one more day, and maybe some areas of light to isolated moderate chop, northern Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, on down to Kodiak Island. Mechanical turbulence, tighter gradient here, higher wind gusts through the mountain passes. Moderate turbulence coming into the western Aleutians with those stronger southeast winds. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the ice edge and the marine forecasts.
When approaching Skagway, be alert for tour operators in the area and for helicopter traffic departing and arriving at Skagway. The traffic pattern is at 1,000 feet with right-hand traffic for runway 19 to avoid the town of Skagway. It will appear that the pattern is close to the mountain, and it is. You will find that you are quite close to the trees on the downwind. A close-in base turn around the water tanks to almost immediate final is needed to avoid overshooting the final approach. This is a tight, narrow canyon that consistently generates turbulent winds in the pattern and on the runway. Be aware that there is a bridge with automobile and truck traffic at the end of the final approach end for runway 19. The bridge is used as a final reporting point. There's a school to the left of the runway just beyond the bridge that must not be overflown. Since the runway is narrow and 3,700 feet long, it gives the appearance that you must land on the approach end numbers in order to stop by the end of the runway. Touching down in the first third of the runway is paramount. Also, be alert to the possibility of variable winds on the runway. Tour operations generated by the cruise ship industry in the summer are extremely busy conducting glacier tours. Multiple flights depart and arrive at the same time, making pattern entry awkward. Good communications are the key to safe entry as well as departure. After landing, aircraft taxi off to the side of the runway and wait for other landing aircraft to taxi off before taxiing back to parking. Be aware that several aircraft are apt to be back taxiing to parking areas at one time. So it's important to be especially careful to report your position in the pattern and while on final. When necessary, don't hesitate to go around. Wind shifts are common in Skagway. It's not unusual to see all three windsocks flying in different directions at the same time. The winds are known to shift unexpectedly. It is possible to get a reported wind from the south, only to be on final approach to runway 19 and have the wind suddenly come down the valley from the north. Winds are usually from the south at 17 to 25 knots, but have been known to exceed 30 knots in the summer. In winter months, severe winds can ground aircraft for days at a time. Departing from Skagway to Juneau off runway 19. After clearing the shoreline, turn to fly to the left of Taya Inlet and retrace your steps to Lena Point. Your first checkpoint on the return trip will be Taya Point. As you enter the Lynn Canal, you can see the Chilkat Inlet off to your right, which leads to Haines. Your next set of checkpoints will be Sullivan Island to your right and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. As you continue toward Juneau, you will see Berners Bay, Benjamin Island, Eagle Beach, Tea Harbor, and finally, Lena Point. Lena Point is the first reporting point into the Juneau Airport. The approach into Juneau requires vigilance because many aircraft will be approaching and departing the Juneau Airport and Float Pond area. Subsequent reporting points when approaching for runway 08 are Coghlan Island, then Battleship Island, if requested, the cut, south tip, and final approach. If you are interested in traveling to other locations in Alaska, please view the appropriate videotape.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing really melting out here in Bristol Bay and thinning out quite a bit along the coast here across Nunivak Island northward there just off the Yukon Delta coast, as well as back up here near St. Lawrence Island and back to the southwest. And of course, ice edge now well to the north of St. Paul. And moving on to forecasts here, looks like north winds tomorrow 15 knots, south coast picking up to about 20 here, north central coast, and falling back to pretty light up to the north there in this zone. Small craft advisories with higher gusts for Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, 20 knots higher gusts there for Stevens Passage and maybe Frederick Sound, while Clarence Strait northwest at 15. Outlook for Tuesday, gales, minimum gales with higher gusts, northern Lynn Canal, 35 knots out of the north. Small craft advisories for Clarence Strait in the central inside waters here, then dropping back to east at 15 for Clarence Strait, and northwest 20 to 25 here. So small craft advisories over the north and central coast areas coming up to 25 knots, seas running 6 to 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound, variable to northwest 15 knots, higher gusts. Definitely looking at higher gusts here coming out of the Copper River Delta along the coast. Otherwise 15 variable for the North Gulf Coast, and northwest 15 on the west side, 20 to 25. Probably see some small craft advisories at least for a short time tomorrow here in the Barren Islands. Otherwise northeast 15 for Kachemak Bay. Light winds here for Kodiak Island, 10 to 15 knots. Light variable winds in Cook Inlet. Excuse me, for Tuesday, north 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet. And northwest at 10 with some higher or lose the gusts there for Prince William Sound, as well as the North Gulf Coast with less gradient, just northeast 15 for this area. North 25 for the Barrens, north 15 Kodiak, and light winds for Shelikof Strait. Northwest at about 20 though for Kachemak Bay. Bristol Bay, northeast 15 knots. That turns easterly here down along the, or actually all of the Alaska Peninsula, east 15 knots, extending right up to Sitkinak. And for Tuesday, no change there from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, but from Castle Cape westward, north actually probably becoming variable here the farther west you go in this zone. Otherwise northeast at 10, so light winds for the peninsula on Tuesday. Bristol Bay, east-northeast 15. And for the Aleutians, Fox Islands, Unalaska Island, call it north at 20, 7-foot seas. And then northwest 15 to 20, swinging around to the south at 15 knots for Adak to Atka. Pick that up to small crafts here heading over to Amchitka Island. The gales warnings, Kiska Island westward to Attu, 35 knots with 13-foot seas. Those lighten up on Tuesday as bulk of that system drops to the southeast, but still enough gradient to carry small craft advisories here. East-southeast 25, 9 to 11-foot seas west of Adak. Easterlies at 20 there, central Aleutians, turning northeast and dropping off. In fact, 15 knots at the most through this area, and then just north 15 for Unalaska Island. Along the coast, all easterly at 15 knots, including St. Lawrence Island. North 10 for St. Matthew Island, up to about 15, so pretty light winds for the Pribilofs. And for Tuesday, no change, 15 knots, seas a little less at 4 feet now. North 15, 5-foot seas for St. Matthew Island, and north to northeast 15 knots, dropping back to 10 for St. Lawrence Island. And for the Arctic coast, brisk wind advisories again tomorrow for the central and east side, but trending downward throughout the day, especially tomorrow night. Otherwise, east winds at 20 knots here from Wales up to Cape Beaufort and even the west side. Then for the Tuesday outlook, you can see lighter winds northeast, barely a breeze here, especially from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, just northeast at 5. East winds 10 knots, the western central coast, and becoming a little more north and northeast on the east side, with those wind speeds really coming down from what they have been, just down to 10 knots now. And for tonight again, still windy up there. Tonight anyway, with actually the small current advisories, as I mentioned, lasting through tomorrow. And then lighter winds south of the Brooks Range, but still pretty breezy here through the interior, especially on the east side. For the higher elevations, leftover clouds, maybe some flurries along the Alaska Range. Dry to the south, showers mostly off the southeast coast. Periods of light rain for the Alaska Peninsula, with winds really not a factor at all. And a band of moisture that doesn't look as impressive as what's drawn here, extending northwestward along that trough. And then a more impressive system coming in out to the west there, bringing up those gales, but really not making much eastward headway. This band of moisture stuck in place here, keeping it damp and unsettled from the Alaska Peninsula northwestward. No change over the interior, just probably less clouds, lingering flurries right along the Alaska Range. Risk of a shower over the Panhandle, mainly south. And then for Tuesday, again, that system drops southeastward here. Another one swings up to the north, a very weak frontal boundary out to the west there. Stronger high pressure in over the Bering Sea. Chance of showers here, eastern Bering.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.